Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast, where we talk about films that were solely nominated for an Oscar in the writing categories. I'm your host, Matthew Anderson, and today we have Ben Miller, host of Target Audience Podcast. Welcome to the show, Ben. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to talk about this specific film. I love the idea of a podcast where you get to talk about the little minutia of the Oscars. That's always my favorite thing. It's like the Oscars are such a historic type thing, and the little things you can get into, especially like this, where you're like, well, it got one Oscar nomination for writing, and what that entails, and why did it do? Like, it's always it's a great topic for a podcast, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad I told this to my previous guests and even some of my other guests in the past, both on air and off air. I'm really glad that I started doing this podcast just because it shines a light on an obscure movie that wasn't in the spotlight. You know, like Casanova 70. It's like I didn't even know that film even existed, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's a reason why, because it's kind of hard to find a copy of it, let alone to rent or buy for it.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, that's my phone. Sorry, my bad. Oopsies.
You're fine.
Yeah, we got some glitches here. So anyways, yeah, so like I said, it's wonderful to have you on the show. I assume by the time this comes up, our episode on your podcast, Target Audience, will already be up.
Yes.
So if anyone out there who, I'll get to, actually, while we're on that, what was it? I was on another podcast with Ben Miller. Speaking of which, Ben, I have to ask you a couple questions
of course.
Some of my audience may or may not know. Would you care to explain to our audience exactly what it is you do for a living, or what your Target Audience podcast entails?
Of course. I am a film critic. I am a writer at various places, and I podcaster as well. Previously, I had a podcast with my brother, the film critic and the common man. Now I'm on to a podcast called Target Audience, where I invite a guest on to discuss a film they are targeted by. And it is a podcast designed essentially, it was an excuse for me to watch stuff that other people care about that I otherwise wouldn't have seen. And so I get to see a lot of stuff. I get to experience a lot of stuff that people have passion for that I don't necessarily would seek out on my own. So I get to watch a Vietnamese romance film, and I get to watch a gay documentary from 1989 about black men with AIDS. Like, it's always these interesting little films that I get these insights for that I otherwise wouldn't be able to. It's a podcast about empathy. Like, I want to, these people care about these films, and I want to get on their level of why they care. And it's always fun to just like experience why people care so much about a certain film. And even if it's like, it can be they can recognize the limitations, but it hits them in a certain way for whatever reason. And we kind of discuss that.
Yeah, trying to study the mind of your guest.
Pretty much, yeah.
What taps into their qualities of like, ooh, what do I want to watch on a rainy Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, and that's the big part of it. Is like, what about them is specific to film? Like, why do you like these films? What films do you like? What is something that excites you whenever you see films, and essentially what are you drawn to? Working on episode, I'm up in the high 20s right now. Plenty of episodes coming out. Like I said, at the time of this recording, or whenever this will drop, we would have your episode coming out on Birdman, which was a fun talk about. It's, and runs the gamut. I've talked about animated films. I've talked about really, really dark, twisted movies, and really light, sweet movies, and things you have heard of, things you never heard of. So it runs the gamut.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the podcast overall, man. I mean, obviously I was on your show for Birdman. I did get a chance to, before we even did the Birdman discussion, I think I said this to you before we did that, I got a chance to listen to some of was the Isle of Dogs review. Which
Yes.
was that seemed like fun. In fact, I won't say what it is yet, but I'm gonna try to do a Wes Anderson or two
Yeah.
film covering on my podcast because he's got a couple of
I was about to
lone
say
screenplay nominees.
he's got what there was Royal Tenenbaums and then
Moonrise Kingdom, I think.
Moonrise Kingdom as well. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah,
But yeah, I'll try to get around to one of them, if not both, by the end of the year. We'll see what happens. But and real quick, I just want to give big appreciation to you and your late brother for covering
appreciate it.
Running Scared.
Yes.
Because I really want, even though I understand rewatching it, I could see why a lot of people didn't want to watch this hard
Yeah.
R film, and it bombed at the box office for a reason. But at the same time, I think it's nice to see to again find movies that are a bit obscured, and
Yeah.
and it's every once in a while you find one where it's like, wow, okay, this actor really showcased his acting chops, that being Paul Walker, where it's like
Yeah.
he could have had something if he got more of an
Yeah.
opportunity to do those kind of roles.
Yeah. My brother was a big fan of it too. It was one of those things. It's like well, it's just kind of a down and dirty thing, and it goes some weird places. But I mean,
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's just the idea of people had Paul Walker in such kind of he's a bland kind of there's a level of acting we're not going to let him do. And
Yeah.
Running Scared was the only opportunity they ever let him do that. And it kind of shows like, man, he had a lot more potential than just kind of the Fast and the Furious, like boring-esque character that he was. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and we see that with a ton of actors, even
Yep.
stuff like Channing Tatum, where it's like, wow, you look at his career that he's gotten, it's like that's pretty good.
Yep.
There's other actors that come to my mind, but
Sure.
I can't. But actually, there's one that we'll talk about very shortly that I was like, wow, I didn't know you had it in you. Okay.
Yep.
But we'll get to that in a minute. So with
Yes.
our film discussion. So the other question I have to ask is, it's always tough to ask someone what their favorite film is because you got to go through a whole book load, or the Bible, going through the whole thing of like, what's my
Sure.
favorite film ever? So I might as well just ask a different question, I guess, and just say, what's your favorite genre of film?
Oh man, it's always difficult to like. That's a tough question too, just because you're like,
Yeah.
well, how do I feel that day? But if I have to pin it down, I would probably say romantic drama,
Okay.
just because like the idea of things being like droll or like longing in film, I'm really on board with. Like you're thinking like even though that like yeah, you have some comedic aspects of like Eternal Sunshine
Mhm.
or the ultimate longing film is Brief Encounter from 1946. It's just like
Yes.
my lord, you're just it's just painful and things are going to go badly, but you're still there on board with it. It has a lot of dramatic heft to it, and it's one I probably radiate towards the most. Second would probably be noir.
Yeah.
I really like really big fan of film noir, but I would probably romantic drama is probably where I'd land.
Yeah, there's some good romantic dramas. Yeah, Brief Encounter. I saw that on a whim. Like I was like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. I'm like, I want to eat something for lunch, and it's like what 80 minutes long, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And by the end, I was like, that was fantastic. I loved it.
Fantastic. I'm devastated.
Yeah, it was great, and yeah, I would love to do a whole dive on why the hell that didn't get more attention at the Oscars, but
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is sometimes, you know.
Yep. I agree.
Um,
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the like it was a very British movie, and 1946 was dominated by America. Like it's post World War II and Best Years of Our Lives. It's a Wonderful Life. Like it's one of those like, well, we're gonna focus on the Americans.
yeah,
And Brief Encounter is not one of those just like, oh yeah, happy thing. Go out and like
yeah.
even all the sadness of It's a Wonderful Life eventually rebounds, and obviously Best Years of Our Lives in that kind of mold. It was just too much of a bummer, I guess.
Yeah, which sometimes can really hurt your chances at the Oscars.
Yep.
Because people are just like, I don't want to watch this shit. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Like, I want you to make me feel good.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So, once again, thank you for being on the show, Ben. Appreciate it. So today we're going to be here to discuss the movie you picked. Woody
Yes.
Allen's Purple Rose of Cairo from 1985. Once again, to our audience out there, this won't be a beat by beat bulletin presentation like you hear on other channels, but we will be discussing major spoilers for our talk. So, Ben, if you have anything you want to spoil when we talk about the movie, go right ahead. The floor
Awesome.
is yours. But before we do, I just want to give a little warning and then just get into our production notes I found on this movie. If you haven't seen the film yet and want to hear our full thoughts on it, watch the film and then come back to hear us talk about it. I believe the last time I checked, it was on Tubi, I think, free with
It's on
ads.
Tubi and Prime Video Freebie, so also free
Okay.
with ads. And
Okay.
it's 82 minutes, and with ads, you're not going over an hour and a half. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a quick set, like Brief
yeah,
Encounter. It's like you're in and you're out, and then
yep,
it's over. So,
yep.
yeah. So going regarding with the production notes, and then we'll talk about the film itself as a whole. I couldn't find a whole lot of production notes regarding the history of making this film. It was a little bit tough to find something like something from the 80s like this,
Yeah.
where it doesn't have a whole extensive like Lord of the Rings, behind the scenes set of behind the scenes stuff. But then again, what does? But the one thing I did find out was Woody Allen made a rare appearance in 2001 at the National Film Theater, and he said that this was one of the few films he ended up that ended up being fairly close to what I wanted to make, quote, when he set out to write it. He went on to say The Purple Rose of Cairo was a film that I just locked myself in a room to write. I wrote it, and halfway through, it didn't go anywhere, and I put it aside. I didn't know what to do with it. I toyed around with the ideas, only when the idea hit me a long time ago that a real actor comes to town, and she has to choose between the screen actor and the real actor, and she chooses the real actor, and he dumps her. That was the time it became a real movie. Before that, it wasn't. But the whole thing was manufactured, which is pretty interesting to, well, taking the, our personal feelings of Woody Allen aside. It's always interesting to study the mind of a writer and director, especially like
Yeah.
Woody Allen. Outside of the loan, I should also point out that the film didn't really it wasn't a financial hit, so to
It's
speak. It
not.
only made 10.6 million estimating on a budget of $15 million worldwide. That's worldwide for the 10.6 million, but anyways,
Mhm.
I did find out that it was screened out of competition at the Cannes Film Festival, where the opening film was Witness, and they gave their Palme d'Or, it's the Palme d'Or prize to When Father Was Away on Business, which is a
Okay.
Yugoslavian film. Pretty interesting. I never heard of it, but I'll do more research on that film later. So outside of the film's lone writing nomination at the Oscars, the film received 4 BAFTA nominations, winning 2 for Best Picture and Original Screenplay, and also gained 4 Golden Globe nominations, winning Screenplay. It was also in the runner-up positions for both the picture and screenplay at the National Society of Film Critics, and won the screenplay prize at the Boston Society of Film Critics. And then, as for the logline of the film, set during the Great Depression, a clumsy waitress, Cecilia, spends her time at the movies to escape her bleak life and loveless, abusive marriage. During the film, The Purple Rose of Cairo, the fictional character Tom Baxter leaps out of the screen and enters her life, causing chaos and thrills within the real world. So, I'm curious to know what made you decide to pick this one out of the list I gave you?
So I have a complicated relationship with the films of Woody Allen in general, just because, well, it's one thing that he's not a good person,
Yeah.
but it's another that he has such a storied Oscar history that it's hard to ignore whenever you care about the Oscars. If you care about the Oscars and are like a completist, you have to see a bunch of Woody Allen movies. Like
Yep.
it's just a kind of the nature of the game. Like, and if especially if you are looking through the screenplay categories, it's hard to miss him throughout the years as the things that he has produced and written and directed have had a lot of Academy attention. So as I go through, you kind of I saw plenty before everybody realized he was terrible, and then I'd seen some afterwards. And the on both sides of kind of the knowledge of what I feel about Woody Allen, the Purple Rose of Cairo still stands out. Like it's not like it has the humor, but there's no Woody Allen surrogate. I always found that the worst thing about Woody Allen movies is Woody Allen himself as an actor. He cannot get over the fact that he shouldn't be a movie star.
Hmm.
And anytime he's in a film, it's women falling all over themselves, women blown away by his talent. Yes, he's neurotic and all this kind of stuff, but you see films like I use my go-to example of the worst of what Woody Allen does is Deconstructing Harry,
Ooh.
because it's not necessarily the film is bad, it's his own perspective on himself that he cannot get over in the film.
Hmm.
And the films I love the most from him are ones that don't focus on him. If he's in it, he's not a focus. And even if he is a focus, it's something else is more important. Like
Hmm.
Hannah and her sisters is all about the women. Annie Hall, it's all about Annie. You have like husbands and wives. He is not the primary thing about that. Like the best film with him is like the main person is Manhattan, and it's still not my favorite.
Hmm.
But whenever he steps back and is able to do something different without himself, I find him much more interesting as a director and a writer. And with the Purple Rose of Cairo, every movie he seems like he has a specific idea in mind. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this homage. I'm going to make this homage. I'm going to do this kind of thing. And the Purple Rose of Cairo, it's his homage to how much he loves old Hollywood,
Yeah.
and it's and also and at the same time as he can't not kind of get over himself, he has to put himself in the movies. And even though he's miscast in his own roles,
Hmm.
it's the same thing with his wife at the time, Mia Farrow. He kept putting Mia Farrow in these movies that she wasn't really right for,
Hmm.
and all these kind of things. And this is the only one that kind of nails what Mia Farrow does. Like, she is the perfect vessel in this film, and I think it's her best performance. And I love this movie before. I love this movie after. I think it's the best Woody Allen film.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned Mia Farrow because I think this is my first movie I'd ever seen her in anything.
Yeah,
Period. And I don't watch a whole lot of Woody Allen films. The only ones I have seen were Annie Hall, which he won the directing and screenplay prize at the Oscar. And I'm so glad George Lucas didn't, because I think that would have even caused like a bigger ego check for him. And I'm like, ugh, he's already got a bigger ego. No offense, but anyways, moving on from that story. And I saw Midnight in Paris, which I remembered liking. It's been a while since I've seen that, but I
yeah,
remembered enjoying it for what it was, and totally get why it won the screenplay prize, even though that was, I mean, I talked about some of it on my margin call
yeah,
episode I did, but yeah, but no, it's yeah, Woody Allen is a really fascinating and interesting character, just because, like you said, taking the whole personal, like, him as a human being aside kind of thing. I'm always fascinated with how everyone reacts to Woody Allen's movies, because I've met a
mm,
lot of people who've been like, I've not been a huge fan of Woody Allen, period, except Purple Rose or Cairo's one. Hannah and Her Sisters is another one people really love. Annie Hall's another one. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, it almost seems like everyone has their pick of like a Woody Allen film they prefer to watch. Even so, my guest who was on here, one of which was Christopher Ernst from Stevenson, he was a guest on my previous episode. He said he's not the biggest fan of Woody Allen, but he totally gets why people really like him a lot. And it's
yeah,
just he's just a really fascinating character. And I agree with you though, like this film feels very much like he is paying tribute to the 1930s cinema. Like
yeah.
even just the way that the Purple Rose of Cairo is framed and written with the
Absolutely.
dialogue. It's really, really good. And for the record, I did enjoy the movie, not as much as you did, it seems
Mm,
like.
no.
But and I think because I think a lot of it is because I would like to see more of Woody Allen's films down the road, at least the ones he's been nominated for Oscars.
Yeah.
And I will be covering Deconstructing Harry down the road. So I'm curious to know how I feel about that movie. But yeah, it's just like he does a good job with setting up the struggles of Cecilia, setting up who she is, and the fact that her character from the beginning is very much obsessed with, sort of living this like fantasy world that is,
Yeah.
unfortunately not a reality. and by going to the movie, she sort of escapes from all of her problems, which is where, movie theaters, now, well, not as much now, but like watching movies in general, it's just sort of
Definitely
like,
during the Depression, though.
yeah, definitely during the Depression. Yeah. Where it's very much like we want to escape from our problems. We don't want to, we don't want to find the gun and, have us be killed. But and even looking at the Oscars for Best Picture we've had recently, where it's like most of the Best Picture winners we've had are movies where they're not making the voters want be so depressed and so sad by the end of it. They want like a an underdog kind of story sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but still, like I really enjoy Purple Rose of Cairo. Mia Farrow's really good in it, and I got to say, Jeff Daniels, like, I haven't seen a whole lot of him in movies. Mainly it's because I just don't watch a lot of him. Like, the only ones I associate him with, unfortunately, is Dumb and Dumber. And
Yeah.
I remember he did Steve Jobs, which I remembered liking him in it. And The Newsroom, I think he was on, right? With the
yes.
Aaron Sorkin wrote it.
The Sorkin, yes.
But watching him in this, I am shocked he does not have an Oscar nomination of some kind in his career. Like, I get it, he's not really the kind of actor to do these like showy roles, but like even for this one, the fact that he plays two different characters and he's able to find a personality, which is really tough to do to begin with, to play twins in movies.
Yeah.
And to find a personality, not just with your voice inflection, but the way your character moves within said scene, how they're reacting with their facial expressions. It really shocked me how good Jeff Daniels was in the movie. And being able to, have us differentiate which of the two is which.
See, I'm on the opposite end of that. I think he should have 3 Oscar nominations by now.
Oh, wow.
At least. And I mean, I'm a big fan of him in this movie. I think he should deserve. I look at the Squid and the Whale as kind of the thing where everybody kind of goes, "Oh, this is the," and that's another one you'll eventually cover on the
down
podcast.
The road,
yeah, that Jeff Daniels is so good at and kind of what he does well. And then I love him in Pleasantville. It's like he just does.
Oh, yeah,
he's so good in Pleasantville, and he's so perfectly cast in this film because of the qualities he encompasses as an actor. He kind of has those Midwestern charm, good looks, but he also has that level of deviousness and timelessness of him. Like it's an interesting quality. It's hard to quantify. It's funny because I read a little thing about this film. The original casting of Gil Tom was Michael Keaton, and then a little into the film, as they were I guess so. A month later, they realized they got filming underway, and they kind of stopped. And Woody Allen and Michael Keaton went, "This is not working," and they mutually like, "Let's." I'll leave this. And they thought about getting Kevin Kline or Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid's a mistake. Kevin Kline's not a bad choice. And then Woody Allen thought about doing it himself. And obviously that would have been a disaster.
No,
then when they landed on Jeff Daniels, it's perfect. Like, it's exactly, everything else falls into place. Because it's not just an aspect of he's good as the kind of dopey, non-world weary person off the screen, as the devious actor in the background trying to save his career. Works both ways. Like, it's hard to find that balance. And somebody like Dennis Quaid maybe works as one side, but doesn't work as the other. And I like the idea of Kevin Kline but he's almost too modern. He doesn't feel like he doesn't feel like a guy from the 30s, where Daniels just fits in. He hits a lot of the boxes of what you would ask for in this role.
Oh, totally. Yeah. He's like really good. And I kept hearing years and years of people like Jeff Daniels should have gotten an Oscar nomination of some kind, even just for this movie. And I'm like, really? Okay, I'll get around to it. And then I did. I was like, yeah, he should have gotten nominated for this, or just in general should have gotten something over his career. Cause it's just shocking that he just doesn't have an Oscar nomination. I think he has like a couple like Golden Globe nods, because he got nominated for this performance along with.
There's a couple wins and nominations. He won for he got a Golden Globe win or Emmy win for The Newsroom, And I
Okay.
watched. Don't get me wrong. I watched every episode of the Newsroom, and it's ridiculous. And it's the worst of Aaron Sorkin and the best of Aaron Sorkin in everything you hate and everything you love about him. It's one of those type of things. But I mean, it's hard to complain. Like it's what you expect. But it made every actor. It gave every actor a chance to do stuff, and especially Daniels, who was really really good in it.
Yeah, definitely. And it even got us other actors like Olivia Munn was on it.
I mean, Olivia Munn's
If
incredible in that movie, in that show, and so is Thomas Sadowski. And yeah, there's a lot of really good actors in that film, in that show, doing a lot of
show.
really good stuff.
Yeah. I'm just looking through any of the notes that I had on the film. Oh, shout out to Danny Aiello
Yeah,
for his performance. He's pretty good. He's another actor I haven't seen a whole lot of. The only two that spring to my mind were Moonstruck, which he's pretty good in, and Do the Right Thing, which he got
yeah.
nominated for an Oscar for. But yeah, it was nice to see him in this. I was actually a little bit surprised he was in it. I'm like, wait, he's in it,
Yeah,
and
he's like the third part. Yeah, and then you get like the little cameos popping up, like the Diane Wiest being a whore, which is
yep,
fun. Like, and
yeah,
then I think Glenn Headley's one of the another one of the women in the brothel. Edward Herman is the Edward Herman, the most 30s like actor I could possibly imagine. Like, he's so perfect as an actor, as a hey, what does an actor, a film actor in 1930s look like? It's Edward Herman. Like,
yeah.
it was perfectly done.
Yeah, I'm just looking through, see what else there was for my notes. The one thing I did really like about the movie was established from early on in the film, and it even puts it back into the film by the very end, was the music cue, "Cheek to Cheek," to
Yes.
establish the environment of the movie right from the get go. And
Yeah.
I love that cut that they make when right in the middle of the song, as she's looking through all the movie posters, Cecilia is, there's this almost like sound cut to being like back to reality. And I
Yep.
love that about it. And it doesn't come back, and that, music cue doesn't kick in until the very end. Because other directors, they would just be like, all right, let's just start off with a boring way for the open, and then, we'll just use the cue at the end. That's it. But, it's best to, if you're going to pay something, if you're going to do a payoff at the end, you got to do a setup at the beginning somewhere. Or at least like throw the audience off, so to speak, which is what Woody Allen is. I mean, he's good at doing for sure.
Sure. Sure.
Um, the other thing I also have to credit to for the movie is I don't know if the sets, particularly with the theater, were already built as they were, or if they just found an old theater back then and just redecorated what it was.
Excellent art direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good art direction, and I was really shocked that, again, it just didn't. I don't think it got any mentions from anywhere.
Yeah. It's always one of those things. It's kind of like I always talk about A River Runs Through It. I don't like that Oscar win for best cinematography,
mm,
not because of it's not a beautiful film. It's like, but maybe Wyoming just looks like that. Like,
yeah,
it's not necessarily like that's more art direction than it is cinematography. And it's like there was that movie. I don't know if you remember from a few years ago, Lunana, a yak in the classroom. It's
yes, I remember.
it was it's filmed in the mountains of Bhutan, and I'm like, oh, what great cinematography! And it's like, I just think that's just what it looks like. Like,
Yeah,
it's not necessarily, and I don't know what levels that is. Like, if you watch Killers of the Flower Moon or Poor Things or Oppenheimer, you're like, well, they obviously built this. They obviously
mhm,
went out of their way, built all this, constructed it all, and it's really impressive. But you see a movie like this, you're just like, did they just find an old theater in an old city and stuff like that, and just kind of got lucky with the filming? But if they had to build it, it's really, really, really impressive.
yeah. I mean, even if they didn't build it, the fact that, like, I don't know, it was very much something the whole time. I was very much like, I was wondering if they had built the theater itself, or they do it on a soundstage, or was it just like
Mm-hmm.
that and they just cleaned it up a bit and be like, okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, because you still have to, for even if you're working on location, you still have to clean it up and make it fit within your
yeah,
environment, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, but either way, yeah, still want to give a shout out to them. There's a couple of lines in the film that I got a couple of reactions out of. One was she's not for me. She's too bony for me.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
thought that was pretty funny. Um, and the one line for me, I don't know if you felt a little icky by this. When I can't remember who the character was, but someone had said, "Is he raping broads?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Yeah, that's
It's one of those things where it's I feel like it gives Woody Allen a little more credit than he probably deserves for the timeliness of what it was back then. Like it was just like it's kind of like if you watch a movie from the 30s and the 40s and they talk about making love.
yeah,
The idea of making love is not necessarily what we think of making love now today.
no,
And it's kind of the same thing. Like unfortunately, back then, raping was a catch-all. Like
yeah,
it's not necessarily the way we think of it today. So yeah, but at the same time, it's just kind of like he's trying to be tongue in cheek about the time, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, there are some real zingers in this movie. The only time I thought to myself, man, I don't like what Woody Allen did there. It was they're talking about whenever Gil comes off the screen and they're talking about God, and they're just like, oh yeah, the writers of the film, and I'm like, okay, Woody Allen, like
yeah.
it's and he does this a lot. It's fine, like it's he can't help himself at all times. And sometimes he's just like, well, yeah, I'm the writer, therefore I am the Jesus of the story. So I get it, but still.
Yeah, a lot of writers with huge egos. It's like every once in a while, it's like I just gotta throw my ego out there just once, at
Yep.
least.
Yep.
No matter how much they restrain on some of it. And yeah, and I also again just going back to Mia Farrow and Jeff Daniels, like they have really good chemistry in this.
Very
Like,
good chemistry, nice and easy, nice and uh, like I said earlier, like I don't love Mia Farrow in a lot of stuff, but I think she's really good in this because her sheepishness always is off-putting to me.
yep,
And whenever she's in a role that has that sheepishness, I'm like, well, why are you being this way?
hmm
Like, this is not what the character is wanting, but it's a Woody Allen movie, so she just is in the movie. In this case, it nails what it's supposed to be because she's an abused woman who can't leave her terrible husband and has to escape to film where nothing goes wrong and everything. Like, it actually fits a character for once as opposed to just being meek for the sake of meekness. Like it's,
yeah,
and then the Daniels and her, like it's a sweet, it's sweet and harmless. It's like it's very you know, it's almost like a high school love. Like it's just
yeah.
like, oh, I love you. We should get married. It's just kind of like that's just kind of what it is, as opposed to the reality of like it's not in the reality of that situation where she's being abused by her husband and all this kind of stuff. Like it's kind of it's just sweet and it's there's no sexiness to it. And even the stuff like whenever the hookers are there, it's all so sweet. Like there's no the inherent darkness isn't really there. It's just trying to live in reality, and it kind of what the film ends on is like, well, as as much as I don't want to live in reality, I have to live in reality.
The other thing I really think what works, or part of the reason why I think why Jeff Daniels and Mia Farrow's character, like other than the actors giving their all and they're giving like genuinely good performances with each other and interacting with each other, I think what also helped set up the idea of Cecilia falling in love with Tom Baxter is, we see through her eyes in the theater and every time she goes to see the movie, and we don't just see the same scene over and over again in the Purple Rose of Cairo.
Yeah.
We do just for except for one part but it's
Yeah.
only because he's about to break the fourth wall again, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah.
we sort of have to give the audience that feeling of like, yeah, you've already seen this like 2,000 times or however
Yeah.
many. But I like that they showcase different sides of Tom as to like why she would fall in love with him on the screen. It isn't just how he introduces himself to people. It isn't just but it's also him at the party, him at the house, getting ready for the big event or whatever, when he falls in love with the singer, things
Yeah.
like that, where it's like it really establishes already all the different qualities that Cecilia wants from a man, which is something that her husband can't provide for her because he's an abusive asshole.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but that was something I was really shocked. But I was like, wow, you actually did set up that character pretty well and gave me and made me understood, or at least empathize why the character would fall for a fictionalized character.
Yeah, and even the reality of it all of like, well, he's a and even in the little funny little notes about like they get into a fight, but he's not hurt because he's not a real person and he doesn't
Yeah.
bleed. He doesn't bleed in the movie, so he doesn't bleed in this. Like it's
Mhm.
those little fun things where and it does a really nice job of, like I said, repeating those things with the little differences of the side eyes and the it there. I did get a little bit of a snicker when he was like, "Wow, you must really love this movie. You've seen it 5 times." And I'm like, dude, you know how many nerds are, you know how many Princess Leia's are going to be walking off the screen
Yeah.
in 1977. It's like, wow, you've been here 247 times in the last 4 weeks. And all of a sudden Princess Leia's are walking off the screen all over the world. And
Yeah.
I got a little snicker. It took 5 times for him to walk off the screen. It's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and yeah, they were like they were like there was one guy who almost came out of the screen, but we managed to get him in at the
I
last
managed to
minute.
get him in. Yeah.
Um,
It's always so fun. Yeah.
the
I
other
also
thing
like the lack of explanation. Like there's no
yeah,
what like there's no there's a magical ticket or there's a magical thing or this. There's no reason. There's no reason it happens. There's no reason it stops happening. It just kind of happens. I love it.
yeah, I also really liked yeah, because a lot of times when you do try to explain the whole circumstance, it takes away from what you're trying to do from the
Yeah.
story, and it's like now we got to focus. Now you got to make the audience focus on this magic, the keys right here. Even though it's like
Yeah.
no, you should be focusing on the magic 8 ball here. It's like no, look at these keys.
Yeah. It's the Groundhog Day of it all. Groundhog Day I always see is the
Yeah,
gold standard for why is this happening? Doesn't matter. It's
yeah.
happening. Like, and same thing with this. Like, why is it happening? Nobody knows. Not only the movie knows. Nobody outside the movie knows. It just happens.
And because it's a comedy like Groundhog Day, the goal is not to explain what the weird circumstances, but
Yep.
rather what kind of what clever and funny comedic moments can we do with this? Like Bill Murray, what is he going to do every time he wakes up on the same day, Groundhog Day?
Yep.
Is he going to get into a car accident? Is he going to save a person's life? Is he going to rob a bank or whatever? All these comedic possibilities you have. Same thing with this. It's like what would happen if we had the character come out of the screen and into the reality, and what kind of situations would they get themselves in? Would Jeff Daniels find out the meaning of oh yeah, there's like the bordello it was which by the way, that was a great moment for Jeff
Great.
Daniels to just play
Yes,
that
I agree.
just so
So
what do you call it?
blasé.
Yeah.
So he's just
Yeah.
like, oh, cool, let's do this. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's like
so what? And he's like breaking it down. He's like, oh, that's nice, but I love hers. And he's I was like, what is happening? Like I was watching this going like, I'd seen it before, and I'm like, does he sleep with the prostitutes? Like I
Yeah.
could like, it seemed like it was something that was going to happen. And I mean, even I think the most laugh out loud scenes are back in the theater with the rest of the cast
yeah.
arguing with the audience. It's like,
Yeah.
you can't talk to my wife that way. Who do you think you are? I'm a genuine countess with a lot of dough, and if that's your wife, she's a tub of guts. It just, I was like, oh man, it's like it was great. Just some of those things, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's just it's an opportunity for playing comedy, like without
Yeah.
consequences. Like it's just comedy without needing to propel a story. It's like, let's check in on here, comedy, and then they can get back to the actual story. It's a nice little storytelling device in between.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it sort of alleviates because the audience is gonna wonder what is going on in the theater every once in a while. Oh, okay, here, all right, so here's what's going on. People are like, I want my money back, and someone's like, ooh, can I see what's going on there? No, you gotta pay full admission, and we're not allowing that.
The people eating popcorn, they go, and it's like, I watched this yesterday, and this did not happen. Like it's those little fun little non sequiturs.
Or even with the aren't you guys bored by this? No, I'm not bored. I'm always fascinated by human and was it the human mind?
It's like it was like, we're not humans, we're on screen. Yeah, and those little it's a fun little deviation to it's to keep everything in mind that everything's fun. Nothing is too super serious. And even like, oh, she gets the crap beat out of her by her husband. We never see it. We just know he sucks. And I hit you, and it's all veiled and alluded to. It's not ever actually personified.
Yeah. The other thing I did want to mention, because I kind of jumped over you when we were discussing about the big
Not at all.
that fight scene with the husband and Tom. I maybe the way that he framed that fight scene, it seemed to me like it was framed for like the 1930s kind of movie, even though it's in reality. But
Yeah.
because it's like it's about, yeah, like that fight, and the way the
Put your
camera
dukes up.
slanted,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the way the camera slanted, and even just like, just like a straight on, like two shotter, full body. I thought that was really good. And even some of the directing in the film, I have to admit, is quite good. Not just with, directing the actors, he does a good job with Woody Allen, but the argument where Cecilia has with God, I know I keep saying the husband, but I really do want to know what was the name. Monk it was. Yeah,
Monk,
Monk.
yes.
There we go. I love the way the fact that argument scene that they have when she starts to grab her things and moving, put it in the luggage. I noticed that there were only two cuts used throughout that scene. And on top of that, the camera's moving around a lot. It's all done in one take. And it was just like, man, I kind of miss these kind of movies where they're
Yeah.
not, they're not overcutting. It obviously is the style of the 80s where they're not, doing the MTV style of editing. But at the same time, it's like, it's really nice that the Woody Allen isn't, again, overcutting the shit out of it like a lot of arguments would be done in
Yeah.
films.
It's
Um,
it's it's much like Tarantino, who never has met a film that he doesn't steal from.
yeah.
It's the same thing with Woody Allen. Like, he has has a reverence for these films. It's not one he is like, he's not taking the piss out of it. He's very much going into it going like, I love these films. They meant this to me, and what I will do is I will do a homage to what these type of films are, and the non-cutting and Dutch angles, and it's intentional. It's all very intentional
Yeah.
on how it does. And I I don't I always feel like Woody Allen is a writer first and a director second,
Yep.
always.
Yep.
And it's always, he always comes at it with a writing point of view. That being said, this is probably his most directed movie, as far as, well, at least of the ones that that I've seen, as
I
far as like trying
Yeah.
to frame things in a certain way as homages, and trying to, like, it's not a direct, like, he very much has an intentionality between the film in the theater, and
Mhm.
how it's presented, and the style it's presented, and then the film itself, as far as like, there's going to be a separation, but it's also going to be a certain style between the two.
I could agree with that. I mean, again, I've only seen two other Woody Allen films, which
Yeah,
one of them screenplay. But from what I have seen, I'm like, yeah, this actually does feel like the most directed he's done. Even though there are some scenes in Midnight in Paris which are kind of framed almost like a painting, but it's
yeah,
because of where they're at.
on purpose,
Um,
intentional. Like,
yeah, but at the same time, though, yeah, it actually does feel like the most directed film he's done. Um, yeah, it kind of does actually. Come to think of it, I didn't realize that.
yeah, and there are, he does homages with every essentially kind of genre. Like, he'll, you know he does this on purpose, and he's, like I said, it's like a Tarantino thing where he's like, I'm gonna pick this and I'm gonna do my specific thing.
Mhm.
I'm in the middle of actually watching Interiors, which is
Oh,
his Ingmar Bergman homage.
okay.
And it starts as a Bergman film, and then it kind of starts to, it's blending to a Woody Allen esque,
Mhm.
more Woody Allen than anything else. And I would think to myself, there's going to be a, there's a Woody Allen style that probably directors and writers emulate without actually citing him, I would imagine.
Mhm.
Probably because they're just like, it's the walk and talk, it's a lot of people talking and moving in frame without necessarily the camera moving around. It's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Like, word diarrhea, but it's fun word diarrhea, and it's not how actual people talk. Nobody actually is a human in this movie. Like it's nobody's actually interacting, and obviously it's a fantasy, but that's kind of the Woody Allen pastiche.
Yeah, I did have a couple other notes I did want to say before we
Yeah.
move on into the award section, and then
Yep.
we'll say our farewells. But the one comment I did, the one joke that I thought was hysterical was when this is after this is when Tom brings Cecilia back into the movie world, and they have the whole table scene in there, and then Tom's like, what about the plot? Forget the plot. You guys are on your own. Do whatever you want. And then the waiter is like, you know what? I don't have to wait tables anymore, do I? I'm going to do what I always dreamed of. Hit it, band. And then he starts
Yeah, he
tap
starts
dancing. Like,
yeah, yeah.
that was the
So fun.
funniest. That was the funniest joke I had seen in that movie. And I'm like, I did not expect it at all. And it was great. Like how they timed in the actor they got for that. Oh my God. That was
I
great.
agree. I
That
agree.
was
Yeah.
great.
It's fun little touches.
Yeah, and then the one thing I have to credit Woody Allen to for regarding with the ending, because we already spoiled the ending already. Sorry, whoops. Um, I really did like. At first, I did feel like I was a little bit jaded and cheated. Like, oh, I kind of wanted a happy ending, but then I realized no, this actually does make sense, and it does kind of tie into the movie. Like this idea of like not every fantasy you have is going to come true, and
Yep.
reality is going to snap you back into it. And
It's
I
a,
you
yeah,
go ahead.
and he does that a lot. He
Yeah.
does, and like I said, you haven't seen many Woody Allen films. You will find out very quickly he does not love happy endings.
Yeah.
And like Annie Hall, they don't end up together.
Yep.
Like Blue Jasmine, she kind of ends up miserable at the end of the movie. Match
Mm.
Point, a murderer gets away with it. Like
Mm.
it's Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Lot of prickly ends to that film. Midnight in Paris. Do not he's alone at the end of the
Yeah.
movie, and like it's not necessarily something where he's not really interested in happy endings, and
Yeah.
it's one of the it's something I'm really it's very noble of him to do, just because of how much it is done and so prevalent, and the reticence to force a happy ending is kind of like the opposite of what you would expect. And this movie feels like it deserves a happy ending, but it has such a perfect ending, I can't complain.
Yeah, no, and again, the fact that Woody Allen was able to subvert my expectations with that ending, I was really impressed by. There's other notes I could bring up about the
Sure,
movie.
sure.
The one note I did want to mention was it was funny when the guy was on the phone in the theater room, and the photographer comes in and takes a picture of him on the phone, and then he tells the police officer, like, "Come on, get this guy out of here." And I'm like, "How the hell do you even have access to the doorway just to take a picture?" I'm like, but I thought that was like a funny little gag.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, just a really solid Woody Allen film. While I am a little bit trepidatious towards his other films, like, there's a couple that he's done that not everyone's a fan of. You mentioned Deconstructing Harry. There's others that everyone's not a fan of. But
Uh,
I'm curious to know what his other films though down the road.
I've not seen his whole filmography, but I've seen quite a bit. And
Okay.
I still have I have a few I have to check off the list that it's like but I've seen a good chunk of them. I'm looking at my list here. I have 17 of his films.
Oh
In
wow.
his one of the biggest compliments I'll give him, he loves brevity. He is not much for like going long.
Yeah.
90 minutes is right his wheelhouse for a film.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, he makes some good ones, but he has made some real friggin' stinkers.
Yep.
Like even there are some that I can land in the middle of being like, there's some good parts of this. And other ones, it just makes me furious. So,
Any few that you could rattle off real quick, or
as far as ones that make me furious,
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the movie Anything Else,
Nope.
or heard of the movie Anything Else. It was the early 2000s version of him. It's him, and he's in it as a supporting character, but it's Jason Biggs and Christina Ricci. It's horrendous. It's
Oh
terrible.
boy.
It's so bad, and it's and even like the things like the deconstructing Harry of it all. He can't get over him own self, and and his talent is too overwhelming for women to resist. It's not
Yeah.
his. It's stuff like that. And Sweet and Lowdown, I was not a fan of, and
Okay.
like it's. I like him as a writer and sometimes as a director. I hate him as an actor. I think he's. I do not cannot stand Woody Allen in a film. And every time it works despite him.
Yeah, even with Annie Hall, which I did enjoy a good amount of, I did think him as an actor was kind of the weak part, because I'm like, there's some elements here I do like of him as an actor, but I could definitely see why he didn't win the Oscar that year, and he was never going to
I love
for
Husbands
the
and
actor.
Wives. Husbands and Wives is an excellent film. It is 10 times better if Woody Allen is not in that film.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, well, like I said, I'll get around to his films down the road for his other stuff. So any final thoughts on the movie itself before we get into our award section?
I love this movie. It's my favorite Woody Allen movie. It's even I feel it better than Hannah and Their Sisters, and I really like Hannah and Her Sisters.
Nice.
The world sucks. Movies are great. That's the theme of this movie. The movies are an escape from your terrible life, and you have to live in reality, but you can escape for a little bit.
What a nice way to say that. Yeah, what a nice. Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting things. Yeah, what Ben said. Don't need to say anymore. You hit it on the nail. So going into our wrap up questions or conclusion of the episode, I have to ask if this was worthy of its sole nomination, and would you have nominated this for anything else at the Oscars?
It is worthy of the screenplay nomination. I wouldn't have given it the win. Looking at that category, that's a killer category that year.
Yes.
I haven't seen the official story, so
Me neither.
I can't speak to that. But I mean, you're in a category with the first Back to the Future, Brazil, and Witness. That's
Yeah.
wild. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I like the idea of I like Witness having an Oscar, and
Yeah.
I like that Oscar win. I'm fine with that. Wouldn't mind Brazil being up there just because but I mean, I have other thoughts about Brazil for this Oscar. Like my big Oscar travesty in the history of the Oscars is Out of Africa getting Best Art Direction over Brazil. It's
Oh
insane. That is
yeah.
an insane Oscar win. Insane. Like you look at Brazil's art direction and you're like, how did this not win in a walk? And don't get me wrong, there's other stuff. Color Purple,
Yeah.
Ron, Witness. There's stuff in there that deserved it too. But I mean, come on. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think just it's like this every year with like when you have a best picture sweeper, it's like there's just some categories that's like no matter what they're probably just gonna win it because it's the most seen of the
Yeah.
nominees. I think I don't know if we mentioned this on air or off air when we did Birdman, but like fucking All Quiet on the Western Front won production design, and it won it because it was the most seen, and the voters hated Elvis, they hated Babylon, no one saw The Fablemans, and Avatar was just gonna win visual effects. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it happens sometimes where it's like, screw it, it's a wash. Give it to the most seen movie of the lineup.
I personally think this year, like this year's Oscars being a good example of like I watch Poor Things and I'm like, well, that should win. It should, but
We'll find out.
I don't think it will, but I think it should.
Yeah.
As far as other Oscars, yes, like I said, I love this movie. I also hate Prisoner. I think it's
Oh.
a bad film. I don't think I find it very. I find very little for redeeming about it. I like Angelica Houston in it, and I wouldn't give her the Oscar win for it, but I do like her in the film. But I would give Daniels and Farrell both an actor and actress nomination. Probably would end up giving Woody Allen a Best Director nomination and obviously Best Picture.
Over
I
Prizzy's honor.
Over Prizzy's honor in all cases. I don't know who I'd kick out of Best Actress because I'm not kicking out Whoopi Goldberg, not kicking out Geraldine Page. Even though I don't love Out of Africa, I think Meryl Streep's pretty good in that. I can't speak to Anne Bancroft and Jessica Lange, but probably Jessica Lange. And then, like we said, maybe I like the idea of the art direction, though I wouldn't kick out any of those except Out of Africa. I'm not sure I would put that's a pretty good set of nominees for art direction,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if I would
Uh,
kick any of those out.
yeah, I haven't seen Out of Africa yet, but I've been told that apparently the production design is flashy enough that it would have gotten in for the nomination.
It's it.
But
Sidney Pollack makes such good movies, and that's
yeah.
just not one of them. That's not the one I think of. Like of all the cool adult, interesting stuff he does, that doesn't feel like the ones like he should have Oscars for. But
Oh,
it feels like bait.
yeah.
It's the classic, like, yep, it's his time. Look at the
Yeah.
flashiness, and it makes sense.
Yeah. I think I know what happened. I think it's the fact that he lost for Tootsie. They were never going to give him director or picture for Tootsie. They lost to Gandhi, which was like a big sweeping epic. And I think at the time too, they always loved their like sweeping epics too. And then when he did Out of Africa, they're like, has he won director and picture yet? No. Okay, that's close enough. We'll give him the win, even though he lost the DGA to Spielberg, who wasn't even fucking nominated at the Oscars.
Yeah,
Which was nuts.
It's a pretty wild thing to think about. But I mean, if the 80s were kind of all over the place as far as what's good and what has permeated and maintained. Yeah. I would argue that Out of Africa is probably the second worst winner of the decade.
Ooh.
Interesting. But Driving Miss Daisy being number one.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, wait, what's number one?
I don't even think Driving Miss Daisy is that bad of a movie. It's just it's fifth in that lineup, and Do the Right Thing should have been in there anyway. Like it's not like I don't necessarily think certain things are like, oh, it's bad. Like my hot take is always that Shape of Water is the worst Best Picture winner since Crash. Ooh. That's always my hot take. That's my I tweeted this once and I thought I was going to be murdered. But I mean, I think The Shape of Water is an actively bad film. And but whenever like Driving Miss Daisy, I don't think is like a bad film. It's just too straightforward and not saying anything. And these other films are saying things and have interesting point of views. It just wasn't the best by any means, and it was deemed the best. But
when Spike Lee finally got his Oscar win, finally for Black Klansman, they're like, let's give Best Picture to we'll give it to Driving Miss Daisy 2.0. That was a bullshit year, but anyways, so
I think Green Book's in the same boat as Driving Miss Daisy as far as like it's not I don't feel like it's an actively bad film. I think it makes a lot of mistakes, but I feel like it's by no means. Like that lineup is pretty solid in that year, and Green Book was by no means the best of that.
No, there were like at least 4 or 5 others I can mention that year that were better, and even some films that weren't even mentioned at the Oscars as a whole that were just fucked over. But that's a whole other year. Anyway. As far going back to Purple Rose of Cairo, I agree with you. The original screenplay nomination was deserved. Looking at the lineup for supporting actor, I do wish he had found Jeff Daniels found a way to get in. I actually
think he's supporting.
I was about to ask that question. Do you think he's supporting or lead?
I think I don't know. He's such an important part. Like I would have no problem him being in lead because he's in there twice.
Yeah.
Like it's if he's just the one character, maybe he is supporting, but being both, it's hard to like. I definitely like if he's lead, I kick out Jack Nicholson. If he's supporting, ooh, I don't know. I don't love William Hickey's okay in Prizzy's Honor, but not. But compared to Daniels, and I don't love Eric Roberts in Runaway Train.
That's what a lot of people tell me.
It's okay. It's an okay film. I don't know why he got an Oscar nomination for it. Like, but I mean, you could find some space in for him. I personally would have been a lead actor, personally.
Okay. Yeah. I might as well just say lead actor. I recently did a whole binge watch, or at least a couple binges of like older films from the 70s. Like I finally got around to watching The Sting and French Connection. And if nothing else, I just kept thinking to myself, I was like, I'm curious in watching more older films that were nominated for picture and one picture in some cases, or even these acting prizes. Like one day down the road, I'll watch Kiss of the Spider Woman to see why William Hurt won the Oscar for that year.
Yeah.
When I know there's some people who are like, Harrison Ford should have won that year for Witness, but you know,
I'm okay with I like William Hurt's Oscar win for this. Like I don't want to like I like him in Children of Lesser God was really surprising to me, but I mean I'm cool with his win here. Just a quick note.
yeah,
So
good.
Matthew A. Stewart on Twitter, the preeminent screen time supporting lead actor differentiator. He has gone through every year and said which one is category fraud, and he has some thing where he will watch a movie and he'll give out the percentages of how much screen time they have. Mia Farrow was in The Purple Rose of Cairo for 44 minutes, which is 53% of the time. Jeff Daniels is 48% of the time, 40 minutes. So only 4 minutes less than Mia Farrow. He spends 65. He spends 2/3 of the time as Tom and the other third as Gil. So
Huh.
he's in it as much as Farrow combined.
Gotcha.
So
By
I said,
yeah, by technicality, he's a lead.
yeah, I would say so. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's to each his own, and who knows if there's even a push for it.
Yeah, because again, the Globes can really screw us over into thinking like, "Oh, something's gonna happen." Like,
Yep.
I don't know why, but my dumbass thought early on is like, "Ooh, Kaylee Sweeney finally got a Golden Globe nod for Priscilla," and it's like didn't amount to jack shit. Same with Greta
Nope.
Lee. It's like didn't amount to jack shit.
They weren't even close.
Yeah, they weren't
Yep.
even fucking close, which is
Yep.
ridiculous. But whatever. We
Yep.
got the I'm acting. I need to do this swim with Annette Bening for Naiad, which terrible.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm trying to think if there's any other categories that year.
Not really.
Yeah, no, like I said, just really yeah, no, but yeah, no, back to what you said, The Witness, I'm fine with that winning screenplay cuz it, was a pretty good win, and sure, I know a lot of people are pretty much frowning upon, Forrest Gump for Robert Zemeckis directing win, but I'm fine that he got one down the road, and
Yeah.
yeah. And then yeah, Brazil's a good film. Official Story I'll watch down the road as well, and then yeah, Purple Rose of Cairo.
Is that a single nominee?
The Official Story won the
Oh,
international
it
category.
won foreign film. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So never mind. Well, you get to avoid that one if you don't want to. But I mean, it's interesting. I have it on the list. I have my Oscar completist list. But I mean, I go through every decade. So right now I'm on the fours decade. So I'm knocking out 1964 right now, and then I'll do 74 and 84 and 94. So I assume I'll get to 85 next year when I knock it all out.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, the Official Story only got screenplay and the International Film Prize, so that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other final thoughts on the awards race potential itself for Purple Rose of Cairo, or any other notes you want to add about that year?
Just that Prizzy's honor is terrible. I don't understand anything about any sort of win behind that. Watch Murphy's Romance again last night, actually, ironically. That's a good movie. James Garner's really good in it. It's kind of it's funny. It's a funny Oscar year because it's much more impressive for the things that didn't win as more than it did win, because Color Purple gets shut out.
11 nominations.
11 nominations, no wins. And I mean, should have gotten somewhere. It probably was the reason that Whoopi Goldberg won for Ghost, because but they're not going to not give Geraldine Page an Oscar. So, I mean, they were eventually going to get around to it. And, kind of just, it's an interesting year to really dig into.
Yeah, John Huston. I haven't seen a whole lot of his films, and I'll get around to it. But he sounds like the kind of director where they would just say, what's the like Scorsese does, where it's like, all right, what's the movie Johnny Huston done? Prizzy's Honor? Yeah, sure, let's nominate it for picture and a bunch of other categories.
He's made some movies I really love. Fat City from 1972 was incredible. I love that movie. I think that's a great. It's a down and out boxing movie. Young Jeff Bridges and Stacy Keach, really, really good. But it's not one of those like, and obviously Treasure Sierra Madre. But I mean, like, there are some things I like that he's done. African Queen, obviously, but I mean, it just kind of goes all over the place, and I just think Prizzy's Honor is terrible.
Yeah, I actually own African Queen. I just got it this
Yeah,
past Christmas. I'll get around to watching it. My grandma's been like
good movie.
pestering me to
Good
be
movie.
like, "You got to watch it," and I'm like, "I'll get around to it." Yeah, I there was another comment I was gonna make about that year. Yeah, oh yeah, and with Geraldine Page. Yeah, that was one where it's like I remember watching. Yeah, again, while watching when we got to the wrapping up point of Purple Rose of Cairo. I remember just sitting there and I was like, I'm curious as to why Mia Farrow didn't get nominated, let alone like win the category. And then I forgot, oh yeah, it was what was her name? Geraldine Page's time. And I was like, that explains. Okay.
Yeah,
you,
she was going
yeah.
to be the most nominated without winning, and there's like, well, this is our last chance, and it's the kind of movie they like, and it's everything worked out. She's really good in that movie.
Mhm.
It's a movie I don't love, but I think she is very good in. So I mean, I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, even I think Ebert and Siskel said like that movie is good, but they would have much preferred. I think at least one of them preferred Whoopi Goldberg over her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's a much more complex performance to do as opposed to what Geraldine Page does in this movie. Like I said, I think she's good, but
yeah.
yeah, by no means a bad win.
Yeah, I'm curious to explore that year because that's always been fascinating. Like I even rewatch Be Kind Rewind's essay on that year, and
Mm,
I'm like, I'm really curious. And now that I've seen the remake of Color Purple, I haven't seen the original yet.
yeah,
But now that I've seen the remake, I'm like, I want to see the original to see how Spielberg tackled this. And then obviously see Trip to Bountiful to see how that does. But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's another year I could do it or another time. So yeah, that's our end of the podcast episode. Once again, Ben, I would like to say thank you for dedicating your time to be here on the show.
Oh, it's my distinct pleasure.
Um, before we sign off, is there anything you'd like to plug in or where our listeners can follow you along after the show is done?
Well, I'm not sure if I have anything to plug. Well, I actually, you can go over to Awards Watch and see the first thing I published over there. I published a big article. I got into discussion the other day on Twitter about who has co-starred with the most Oscar-winning performances,
Ooh.
and we just kind of spitballed it a little bit on Twitter. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to start digging into it, and so I went in and found every Oscar-winning performance and pretty much cataloged everybody who co-starred with them,
Yeah.
and it was about 2,000 different actors. It was
Wow.
Burt Lancaster was the winner, who he'd co-starred with 8 other Oscar winners, not including your own.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, for example, Michelle Yeoh would only have 2 mentions, and Kiwi Kwan would have 2 mentions, and Jamie Lee Curtis would have 2 mentions, but Stephanie Hsu would have 3. Things like
Mm.
that. So and I documented it all. Jane Fonda's really up there. You get some interesting character actors. The youngest person on the list with more than 4 mentions was Anjanae Taylor Ellis. I think she's like 40.
Oh.
It's like she's like 47. It's a very old, skewing older list.
Hmm.
Like so, you can find that on Awards Watch. You can find all of my stuff on my site, icecreamforfreaks.com. I write on other places as well. Follow me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at nebisbin, Instagram at neb.isbin. My podcast is Target Audience. You can find that on the platforms of your choice and follow it on Twitter at Target Odd Pod. And follow me on other podcasts as I'm the David Thulis of podcasting.
Nice. Yeah, when you mentioned the whole co-stars, starring with like Oscar nominees and winners, it just immediately opened a floodgate of memories when like years ago when I started predicting the Oscars. I'm like, okay, like even though all these like stats and Oscar records and like who directed who, for
Yep.
like actors, because I do this whole Oscar chain thing where it's like like how many Oscar nominations has like Alexander Payne directed into a nomination or like Martin Scorsese and such.
I have that. I
Um,
have that master list as well. I have that
oh
for
Jesus.
everybody. It's that took me a long time as well because
Yeah.
that's Oscar. That's nominations and direction. But just a good note. Woody Allen is 7th on that list. He has directed a total of 18 nominations throughout his career.
Holy shit. Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll make sure
Scorsese's
to
second. Scorsese's second.
nice. But yeah, I'll make sure to link the awards watch thing on the
Awesome.
description for it, along with you where people can follow you on.
Thank you very
So
much.
Yeah, sure. As for me, you could follow me and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you could follow me along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same site, I provide a link for where you can listen to more episodes of the show. And if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know down the road, and hopefully we can arrange that happening soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.